welcome back to the college grad reflections here on GameboyTV. And so this is a continuation from episode 8. And in today's reflection, we will focus on my first ever musical production that I was ever involved in. This experience took place during the 2015-16 school year, during winter break and the first week of that spring semester. So it was, I think, about a week after auditions when Ryan and the crew of Morgan, Jack, and Mary Kate were in Wilkins Theater, and they asked to meet with me. And so I did, and they told me that they were so impressed by the way I was able to handle myself during those auditions that they offered me the position of accompanist for Dogfight. That actually stopped me in my tracks, because given my exposure to musical theater at the time, I was at least a country mile away from even thinking of doing any theater gigs. I felt like I needed more exposure to music and more time to just sight read independently. To be offered such a serious position in just a flash is the equivalent of being offered a roster spot on an NBA team just because you made the half-court shot after having your name selected from a raffle. But they gave me no pressure. They gave me time to think on it. So my assignment would be that I would have to stay on campus until late night, like 10 to 11 p.m. to do vocal rehearsals with the cast. Rehearsals would be almost every evening, excluding weekends, until the end of the semester, and then during winter break after Christmas, every day until showtime. Since the piano is the universal instrument, I, as the accompanist, have to be there for every single rehearsal. I have to be there to help with notes, vocal warm-ups, and provide music when rehearsing the scene. It was going to be a major responsibility, and I am going to have to make sacrifices with part of my daily routine. For a month and a half, I won't be able to watch Jeopardy every night, as well as Knicks games. More importantly, though, I would not be able to work on my classical pieces, since this would take precedence. But I didn't want to disappoint them. It was a golden opportunity for me to now really know how the theater department works. It was a golden opportunity for me to make new friends no matter how big our differences were. After all, I do love performing, and pit work is one of the branches of performing. So let me elaborate on Dogfight. It is a 2012 off-Broadway musical by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, based on a 1991 movie starring River Phoenix and Lily Taylor. Basically, the majority of the plot is told in flashback and centers around a character named Eddie Birdlace and his fellow Marines Boland and Bernstein, colloquially known as the 3 Bs. And they make, in that musical, they make a play on the bee, the insect, and the letter B, with one of the most memorable lines in the musical being, "We 3 Bs have a mighty sting and we come prepared for anything." The 3 Bs and their other fellow Marines are spending their final night in San Francisco before they are being shipped out to fight in Vietnam. So this was during the Vietnam War, and they make a bet with each other, putting money that in 2017 is worth quite a lot, to see who can find the ugliest date. And that is where I'm going to stop. This is not a musical for young kids, folks. It's very ironic that a guy like me, who still finds cursing inappropriate and other, facets of adult life to be immature. But it's a wonderful musical that deviates away from the usual resolution. And I'll let you think about that one. So don't spoil it if you've seen the musical before, either at Kane or the off-Broadway production in New York. It's also a rock musical that calls for bass, electric, an acoustic guitar, violin, cello, drums, percussion, and of course, piano. Upon getting the piano score, oh my goodness gracious, all the key changes and the complex rhythms and harmonies would make one's head spontaneously combust. But the fact that I have an adequate theory, sight reading, and technical ability, I convinced myself that I can do it. I just have to remember to make it my own, at my discretion, and to not treat it like a classical piece, so the recurring theme of separating what's classical and what's contemporary. So now let me elaborate on three important people in the production: Morgan, Mary Kate, and Dan. And for the sake of privacy, I won't reveal their last names on the air, but I'm pretty sure if one of you is watching this, who is watching this from Kane and is from the theater department, you probably know who the people I'm referring to. So Morgan was the woman directing this musical, was a student at Kane. I don't know if she graduated yet. I don't know for sure. I've seen her this past school year. So she was a student this past 2016-17 school year. And I often would work with her with rehearsing certain scenes that have singing involved. Sometimes if a cut needs to happen, we work together to see what part of the music needs to be cut. And give credit to her. She busted her chops to provide me with music, making sure that the set was spot on, and that she made sure the cast understood their character that they were playing, and a bunch of other stuff. Mary Kate was also working alongside Morgan and was in charge of choreography. She told me she was going to graduate next year, so obviously she is still a student at Kane. She made sure that everyone knew what various dance and movements that they were supposed to do during the musical numbers. From the marching of the Marines with their weapons to having two people carrying someone during one of the numbers. And I was amazed how she helped coordinate it all. When all was said and done, the entire ensemble looked natural throughout the musical. Nothing was out of place, and the choreography matched the mood that the scene was trying to portray. And finally, Dan. Dan was in charge of music directing. I've known this guy since my freshman year at Kane, and he can balance being quirky, cool, and talented. His main instrument is the saxophone, but he is proficient at arranging and conducting. This guy can make his living just by gigging. He has made a profound impact in terms of what direction I may want to take my music career when I'm not teaching. I've started to get my feet wet with arranging and performing with ensembles. He's got a wide exposure to different styles of music and possesses a high level of music theory knowledge. So now that I've introduced all of them, let's give them all a round of applause. My first exposure to the Dogfight score happened at callbacks. We were in a wide open room that looked like a dance studio, sort of. It was there that people who were called back would be divided into groups, and these small groups would sing part of the actual musical number to determine if they were going to have more of an ensemble part or a lead role. The whole theme of auditions and callbacks for me was shot in the dark, because I was reading these scores very blindly. Since I didn't have the whole score to download onto my iPod to listen, I had to rely on listening to the recording on the site and replicate it the best as I could. So, November passed, and my first rehearsal for the show took place on December 1st, 2015. By that time, I received the pianist's score, and I distinctly remember rehearsing a song called Hey Good Looking. Now, that song wasn't too bad. It's a very chordal song, but it has some key changes. When you're dealing with musicals, there's something called vamps. You may have heard the term before, but basically it's 2 to 3 measures of an open repeat while dialogue and action are taking place. So what I learned from that first rehearsal was being able to listen to the performers speak, read the dialogue in the score during the vamp, and watch the conductor cue to the next section of music. At this point, I know I've been rambling on a lot, but I'll try to wrap it up soon. So during break, Dan also got the pit members together to do the instrumental portion of rehearsals. It was those rehearsals that I got to familiarize myself with the score even more, as Dan would play the entire song, the entire recording for us. And these rehearsals would last 2 hours tops. The other pit members didn't need to attend every acting rehearsal over at Von Ames, but I had to. So like I said earlier, it's the perks of being a pianist. I had to report to every single day, including Sundays, and work for 10 to 12 hours per day. I had to tough it out, honestly. Sometimes I would go 3 to 4 hours during these rehearsals not going over a scene that would have music. I would just hang around, surf the internet, listen to the musical on YouTube, and sometimes observe how the cast and crew interact. During stoppage time, I would chat with the theater majors casually. And my diet for those 3 to 4 weeks of rehearsal? Potato chips, Pop-Tarts, and the occasional Blimpie. Oh, okay, laugh all you want, fake audience, but you should consider yourself lucky to have a vending machine nearby and a few dollars to spare. Anyway, here's a little insider clip during one rehearsal.
Come back.
Yeah, we're going straight here. Okay. You ready?
Welcome to San Francisco, kid. It's all a thing like everybody. Yeah. Like most of us. Where you going? Staying with friends. I don't got any.
Alright, no problem. So, on January 16th, 1 week before opening night, we had something that's called a sits probe. I won't go into the details of why it's called a sits probe, but it basically means that the pit orchestra and the cast finally come together and sing songs with the entire pit the way it's going to sound when the final production comes together. It's the one golden opportunity before Tech Week to make adjustments, whether it's from how the pit sounds to the performers singing. We need to be as in sync with each other as best we can. We also need to figure out logistically how the pit is going to fit behind the stage. The Zella Fry Theater is not big, and on showtime our max audience is going to be only 80. And so the next clip that I'm going to show you details the setup that we had. As you will see, it's a mess. The clip after that shows you the final setup of the pit as narrated by me. A lot of compromise, but we got it done. And at this point, nothing will stand in our way of putting on 3 epic performances. However, Mother Nature will have something to say about that. And that will be the subject of episode 10, here on the College Grad Reflections on GameboyTV.
I'm going to put in 2 plug bars.
Yeah, so this is our pit right here. We just completed sits probe.
Yeah, sorry, 2 power strips.
Alright, come back here. We got a lot of shit to figure
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing.
Whoa. Get people you can tag up.
no!
That's my mallet. You stole my mallet, dude.
Yo, Ryan.
No, I
Ryan,
didn't. No, I didn't.
can I try out that electric kit?
Go for it, man. I hate it.
You
I mean,
hate
it's
it.
great. It's great. I'm glad that we have it.
You hate. Okay.
So, presenter one pizza with bacon on it.
All right. Hold on. I'll put my camera down here.
Bacon on pizza. I mean, I'm going to get like 2 or 3.
I want Blimpie, right?
Yeah. I'm going to get your order. Wait, can you get this?
Yeah, I'm not really the best at drums. That's why I play piano. Yeah, sure. Okay, everybody. So this is what our pit looks like. It's a small area. I know it's a little bit dark to see. But if you want to know how tight we are, we needed a mirror so that our percussion player can actually see our conductor, which would be perched up on here. So where I'm gonna be basically imprisoned until the end of the first act, and then again after the second act. And we have our electric kit connected. A lot of wires and a heck of a mess. I'm just trying to get in right now to actually. Whoa. Okay, I'm good. Tight squeeze. I just don't want to unplug anything by accident. Oh, this is gonna be home. Oh no. Okay, that's okay. Alright. Yeah, so you wanna know how tight it is? Well, it is tight.